when you benchmark Australia against a couple of other economies, just by comparison to understand how things might work, the obvious candidates that come into mind are always Canada and the United States, simply because they are also countries where urbanization occurred reasonably late. So cities tend to follow the same kind of logic, that they are built up with a big grid and you grow outwards. In terms of urban development, where does Australia fit in the global landscape? And I'm always raising this question of where in the world do you want to spend your time, your energy, and your money? And if I'm thinking through this, I'd say, well, I'd want to be ideally in an industrialized democracy where the rule of law is guaranteed. That'd be my first basic. So that leaves North America, that leaves Europe, it leaves rich Asia, and it leaves Oceania. Then you throw on this growth trajectories. Europe is actually supposed to be shrinking or stagnating, even if you take a high migration view, because it has very low birth rates, a very aging continent. So you go, well, so it'd be harder in Europe to actually, make a buck. You can still become very rich in Europe if you play your cards right, because even in a stagnating country, in a stagnating region, there are growth areas. And that's an important lesson for Australia, where we say, well, we were used to grow at 400,000 people per year, and now we're not. So everything goes down the drain. That's not what is occurring. In Germany, for example, we had 20 years of population stagnation, but there are still growth areas with absolutely booming population. Munich and Berlin being the prime examples of cities that are just booming. But you wouldn't think it if you just look at the national population data. So that said, globally speaking, we're in a really good position. In the 1960s, Jeffrey Blaney spoke about the tyranny of distance, where Australia is so far away from all the nice growth that occurs around the world. But this time around, the tyranny of distance, it's a bonus. It's the gift of distance, where we are a bit isolated from all the difficult things. The coronavirus is still very much occurring around the world. We're not anywhere near finish running its course unless the vaccine is as good as it's promised. We managed corona really well in Australia simply because we could lock down the country, and the sheer free coincidence of geography that we have 5 really big cities where everybody lives in, and they are really far apart from one another. If there's an outbreak in one city, we could just shut it up, lock it down, and the show continues elsewhere. That's really nice. And it's not that easy in Europe to do it this way. And I do think when a young skilled migrant looks at the world and goes, where do I want to live? Well, of course, Europe is an option. I think particularly the UK will continue to be an option for many. So will Canada. If you look at the last couple of years of news around the US, I do think the attractiveness of the US as a location got a bit diminished, whereas Australia and New Zealand are great places that will be sought out by international talent. So that will not have changed. The same logic that young migrants might have, international capital follows that logic too. If you are a Canadian pension fund, if you are the Norwegian sovereign wealth fund, and you got a couple of billions of dollars to invest, where do you put your money? Well, of course, you could put it in the fastest growing economy over the last decade, which of course was Ethiopia. You guessed it. So Ethiopia and Bangladesh are the fastest growing economies. Sometimes you think China might have been the economy. In absolute terms, it was. But you made the biggest killing in Ethiopia and Bangladesh, financially speaking. But of course, these are areas where the rule of law, where you're not quite so sure about it. So it's a bigger gamble. But a pension fund, a European or North American pension fund, they have a growing portion of their customers in the retirement phase. So they look for stable growth rather than high risk boom growth. So where are they going to invest their money? They are looking for a nice growing vanilla economy. And that's what we got. Yeah. That's exactly what we got.